Imagine training for nearly 10 years to become a singer, and then not being allowed to sing. I would lose my shit. Hello my darlings, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first video ever, so excuse me for any weird things. I just had a lot I wanted to say and I hope it's worth a while. As you've seen in the title of the video, the topic is live singing in K-pop. There has been a plethora of debates, comments, and a few think pieces on the subject. And for good reason. Idols have been praised and mocked for their live vocals in the past, but these last few months, the situation has escalated so much that it seems that many groups are on a tightrope in respect to live singing. This video is called The Crisis of Live Vocals for a reason. It's getting out of hand. This video will focus on providing commentary on the situation, but I will not go into how to determine if a performance is live or which groups do or don't. If you're interested in deciphering when and how K-pop groups avoid live singing, you should check out the series A Lesson in Pre-Recorded Vocals and the channel Shellene, which I'll link down in the description and were some of my main inspirations for this video. I'll give you my best attempt at providing a nuanced commentary on the rise of lip syncing and how K-pop as a whole is worse for it. And at the end, I'll get into the juicy stuff and talk about some controversies that groups have found themselves in due to lip syncing. Okay, let's go. The rise of lip syncing in K-pop, which started somewhere around the third generation, has led to this full-blown crisis we're now witnessing in the fourth generation and has left no group untouched. First, it's important to recognize that not all non-live performances are created equal. A performance can be live with a heavy backtrack, live with autotune, pre-recorded vocals, or a combination of these. When a backtrack is used, usually pre-recorded, the artist is indeed singing, but can only be heard a few times due to the low volume given to the microphones in comparison to the high volume of the backtrack. Sometimes you'll catch an idol singing louder to try and be heard over this track. As for autotune, it is a way to edit the audio being received into the microphone with help of a computer program. In the past, it was very robotic and obvious when it was being used, but it has improved a lot and become harder to identify. These performances are technically live because the artist is actually singing, however, the audio that reaches the ears of the audience isn't. Finally, we have pre-recorded vocals, which is using vocals recorded in studio but without the heavy editing that goes into studio versions. This is played over the instrumental with a louder volume to give it a more live feel, and the idols merely move their lips to the song while dancing. This is the most quote-unquote fake on the list. It's worth mentioning that while lip syncing definitely isn't a new thing, it has started creeping into places where it didn't used to be. And by that, I don't mean every group is doing it, but it's gone from almost unheard of to somewhat frequently done. The first is special performances branded as live, either special clips from the group or instances where the group is invited to perform with a live band in a variety show, etc. These used to be times where the group's vocalists got to really shine and showcase their talents. Oftentimes, these performances are done standing still or sitting down, so the focus is entirely on the artist's vocals. But recently, many of these performances have had heavy editing involved, so the final product uploaded to the group's social media is far from a live performance. Then we have radio performances, which are for, you guessed it, radio. Listeners can't even see the idols, so the usual deal is they go into the studio and sing standing still on top of the song's instrumental. This has been a great way to check on how strong a group is vocally, since dance can make even the greatest singers shaky and breathless. In these performances, they can really give us all they've got. But recently, radio performances have had a backing track which completely drowns out the voices of the artists, defeating the purpose of inviting the idols to the program. I mean, just play the studio version at this point. Finally, we have encores. Yes, freaking encore stages. These are live stages where an artist celebrates a music show win by singing the song they just won a trophy for. Now, these performances are usually very playful, where idols run around or even perform a challenge given to them by fans. It's clear that they are not meant to be taken too seriously. But unfortunately, Due to some instances of idols receiving heavy criticism for their singing in encore stages, some have started performing on top of pre-recorded vocals instead of just the instrumental. This is just sad, because this is meant to be one of the happiest moments of an idol's career, but in turn, it's an anxiety-inducing situation. So we've gone from mainly just music show performances to this. There has to be an explanation and a reason for companies to choose this path. So let's examine some of them. The first and most the obvious reason why most K-pop stages are not sung live is the very complex and physically demanding choreographies idols have to perform. This is understandable, since during the last few years, K-pop as a whole has prioritized dance to vocals because it allows for a more visually spectacular performance, which is one of K-pop's main selling points. The whole genre is characterized by its excess and grandiose feeling, which also separates them from Western artists, which rarely perform hard choreographies. This has led to companies placing that importance onto their training programs and their selection process. It's also worth noting that autotune is a thing and lip syncing is a thing, but there still isn't a robot suit which can automatically make you a good dancer. If there was, companies would have begun using them ages ago. So the focus is on dance. This leaves little room for training vocals. I imagine at present time it's much harder to debut with subpar dancing skills but great singing skills than the other way around. A notable example is ITZY's main vocalist, Leah. She is behind her members in the dancing department, but seems to get much more criticism and even hate than idols who struggle with singing. Well, that's if they're ever heard struggling, and that's where the lip syncing comes to save the day. Stray Kids' Bangchan actually spoke about this in one of his lives with his perspective as an idol in mind and had the following to say.
Most of the times we would prepare a backtrack for our live performances because just in case, it's case by case scenario, but like sometimes the venue or the way it comes out onto, the speakers, it might sound different to what we want, so that's why we have a very supportive backtrack. But in the end, even the pre-recorded vocals, we are still singing it, but like, because we always want to sing it. It's inside us. We're always like, oh, we want to sing this, we want to sing, because sometimes it would be.
It makes sense to lip sync when the choreography is so hard anyone would struggle to sing while dancing it, no matter how talented you are or how long you've trained. Even if a company manages to get their hands on a really good singer, oftentimes they'll give them a song that is outside of their comfortable range, which would be almost impossible for them to sing while dancing, and still hard for them to sing while standing still. They give their idols songs that they believe sound good and that might be big hits without taking into consideration the actual capabilities of each member or the group as a whole. This can be very unhealthy for their voices if they're forced to sing live, even causing permanent damage. So, in these situations, idols might choose to lip sync or to sing everything live except for a couple of difficult phrases. It is a very understandable reason to lip sync, but companies, please just be considerate to your idol's vocal cords. As I've mentioned, some idols suffer from being assigned songs too difficult for them, but some others just aren't very good singers. We just know how big of a role visuals play in K-pop. You can even get recruited off the street while having a meal or shopping around if you're pretty enough. And it's not just because companies are that kind of superficial. They're businesses who plan on capitalizing on a superficial audience. Several times idols have gone viral for a particularly gorgeous picture or simply for debuting with a beautiful face. No shade, but it's clear where some of these people's priorities lie. Knowing this, companies are ready to place a lot of importance on looks, even above other characteristics. Yes, there are idols who have debuted while not fitting the Korean beauty standards, but the bar for them was much higher than it was for quote-unquote prettier idols. Let's take a look at what Mamamoo Swasa has to say about it. She's known for her vocals and talked about her experience in the industry.
어느 날은 오디션을 보러 이렇게 갔는데 거기 선생님께서 그러시더라고요. 너는 개성도 강하고 노래도 잘하지만서도 뚱뚱하고 예쁘지가 않아.
Combined with a focus on dancing, this has left the vocal department collecting dust in most companies. And whether there's a lack of pre-existing ability or a lack of training, some idols simply don't do a great job at singing live. So the companies try to avoid it as much as possible. And this leads to what, to me, is the main reason for lip syncing in K-pop. Idols are meant to be the people you admire, the people you envy, the people you want to be or you want to date, the people you form an unhealthy parasocial relationship with because you love them so much and have spent the last 15 hours watching Run BTS with no breaks. You get it. They're called idols for a reason. And to have this person who has been presented to you almost as a god on earth fail at something, fail at the specific thing they're meant to be good at and get paid to do? The best case scenario is the public finds itself a little bummed. And the worst, their whole bubble is burst and they finally see that idols aren't really perfect. It might even lead to someone deciding that they aren't worth spending money on, which business-wise would defeat the entire purpose of the group's existence in the first place. And that is what companies are truly scared of. This isn't an unjustified fear. I clearly remember Twice encore performance that went viral for not being the best vocally speaking, which spurred countless hate comments towards the girls, and especially Momo. The group continued to be incredibly successful, which is probably because they're a very popular and beloved group, already established in the industry. But that didn't mean they were immune to the hate train. I can only imagine what something like this would do to a smaller unestablished group. Luckily for companies, while it's nearly impossible to hide bad dancing, correcting or hiding bad singing is surprisingly easy, so no wonder they're taking advantage of it. And even if they actually have a group where all the members are good or even great singers, why let them sing live when you can mitigate the risk altogether by using pre-recorded vocals? It's not particularly expensive or complicated, and it guarantees zero vocal mistakes during the performance. Still, with all that power, when they could play it safe and hide lip singing for the entire duration of an idol's contract, what happened? They got greedy, or something. It gets a little ridiculous here. Historically, and I mean in the West too, when an artist got caught lip syncing, it was a scandal and a really big deal. It could flatline an artist's career. Look at Milli Vanilli if you want to see some of that. Artists make sure to perform so convincingly that they would never be found out. But it appears that the fourth generation just threw that out the window. And why do I say this? Because in the vast majority of cases in recent K-pop performances, it is extremely easy to tell when an idol is not singing live. The choreography is super demanding, but they never breathe heavily or skip any words. They are in constant movement, but the voice never reflects them in stability or volume. Challenging high notes are sung with an ease that Ariana Grande would envy. Because having shaky vocals, making a funny face, or God forbid having a voice crack are too far from the perfection these companies profit from advertising. And they flew too close to the sun. And now it's obvious as day. It even feels like an insult at times, and that's precisely what they were trying to avoid, breaking the bubble. So let me do my due diligence and talk about why allowing live vocals is a good choice, or rather why lip syncing is a bad one. If a group goes their whole career without making a single vocal mistake, they're an outstanding group. If no group ever makes a mistake, then that's just a standard. Even great vocalists make mistakes once in a while, and there's absolutely no shame in that. But now it seems no K-pop group is allowed to make a singing mistake because they automatically stand out of the crowd as bad singers. This feeds into the narrative that idols are never allowed to fail, which further dehumanizes them. At the same time, these standards that must now be maintained impede fans from the enjoyment of listening to their favorite artist singing live, and in the instances of concerts or music shows, straight up sells false advertisement. In the second generation of K-pop, vocalists were very respected and popular for their skills. But now, since every idol has perfect vocals, it's harder for them to stand out, especially if their dancing isn't as good as other members. They end up fading into the background and often get unjustly labeled as untalented or lazy. I cannot imagine how an idol who spent 2 to 10 years of their life to become a singer and is now forbidden from singing must feel. In some instances, you can hear idols trying to sing very loud so they are heard through the pre-recorded track, which, gosh, it just breaks my heart. It was so easy to let them sing live. So many passionate performers are being told to put more effort into looking pretty than into singing well, which totally defeats the purpose of becoming an idol, especially if you're a main or lead vocal position. It's true that they get to sing in the studio, but the energizing feeling they get when performing for fans, it's a different experience altogether, and they're forced to miss out on it. It could even be argued from a financial perspective that money is being wasted into vocal training if everything is going to be put to waste with autotune or lip singing. Some groups who have sung live have actually gained a fair amount of recognition from fans through the demonstration of talent. NMIX and Stacy are some that come to mind, as they've performed fantastically singing live, and even fans of other groups didn't fail to notice. This would be a clever way to promote your group instead of having them suffer from accusations that they can't sing. Other idols, which are almost never allowed to sing live, had to make space in their busy schedules to sing for their fans, either by going live and singing or posting covers on their social media. Blackpink's Rosé has talked about having to make time for music now that her idol schedule is devoted to so many other things. She has gone on live to play the guitar and sing several times for her fans, and you can tell from a mile away how happy that makes her. It's a shame she and other idols cannot do it more often. Live performances are great moments for idols to connect with their fans by bringing the music they have been listening to life. There are no double takes. It's a much more organic version of them, even with all the set pieces and production that went into the performance. It's a moment to see the person you admire fully immersed in their craft, showcasing their passion and the culmination of years and years of work. I was talking about this with a friend, and he said, I love the emotion that comes out during live performances. Studio versions are too clean. And while you don't have to agree, these are the kind of emotions that fans are missing out on when an idol never sings live. Hearing how they connect to the lyrics and theme of a song through their voices. And often, when a fan realizes the vocals that they're hearing aren't really live, it disturbs the experience and severs a part of the connection that was being established. You want to assume that your idols are capable of singing live and may have good reasons to believe so, but if they keep avoiding it, it inevitably creates a distrust in the idol, the company, or both. We know that idols are produced to look effortlessly perfect, and when they're caught lying about the nature of their performance, fans might start wondering what else about them is manufactured or fake. Some might even go as far as feeling betrayed after they form a strong parasocial attachment to the idol or idols in question. This, of course, is not healthy, but it is the relationship that the company has worked hard to create and maintain for profit. But this isn't just about money. Hearing idols make different intonations and ad libs every time they perform a song keeps it much more interesting and playful, and leaves room for the artist to bring out some of their personality and artistic identity, which we miss out on if the same studio version of the song is played every time. Now, I've seen some people way too comfortable using lip syncing as an excuse to harass people, even children in some cases, because let me remind you that Lisa is 15 years of age. Like I mentioned, most groups lip sync to a different degree, but a bunch of these people don't really care about live vocals or talent. They only care about their favorite group and will not miss the opportunity to hate on other idols under the justification that lip syncing automatically makes them untalented or some kind of morally corrupt, which is clearly untrue. They'll keep bringing it up just to say disrespectful and horrific things under the guise of criticism. And I'll always be a supporter of criticism, always, but some people are just bullies and have to be called out for it. The justification to hate happens with other issues as well, and I'd love to talk more about it, so let me know if you'd be interested in that kind of video. And now that that's out of the way, we can move on to the section that you've been waiting for. Lip syncing feels truly inescapable in this generation, but a couple of groups have found themselves in especially hot water for the lack of live performances. aespa is the most recent girl group from SM Entertainment, debuting in 2020 and finding instant success with their title track, Black Mamba. aespa's vocalists Ning Ning and Winter gained a lot of attention for their talent on the group's track and even some pre-debut videos. However, fans realized that none of the performances for Black Mamba were live, and stans and casual listeners alike thought this was odd. If SM is known for one thing, it has to be their strong vocals all around. Even those without a vocal position in the group are good singers due to the thorough vocal training that the company offers. So, while fans didn't question aespa's singing ability, they did resent the fact that they weren't getting any live performances. This stretched all the way past their second comeback, Savage, when they were invited to perform at California music festival Coachella, where they were finally heard singing live with little to no mistakes. And while haters will always find a reason to hate, for most people, it was time to put this debate to rest. Seven-member girl group Lovelies participated in the first season of Queendom, a reality show where established girl groups compete against each other survival show style. However, instead of getting many new fans, it appears Lovelyz tarnished their reputation when they were caught lip syncing during their performance of Sixth Sense. They received a ton of hate comments for it, even though most Queendom performances used either a backtrack or heavy autotune, yet other groups seem to stay away from controversy. Let me remind you all what kind of group Lovelyz is.
Oh, when their love comes out me, I'll devotion. When it takes us from when
They're not at all lacking in the vocal department. Actually, with their dexterity and harmonies, I would dare say that as a unit, they were one of the strongest groups when it comes to vocals. And yes, I said were because sadly, Lovelyz disbanded 2 years after Queendom aired in 2021. Now, I can't say for sure if the Queendom controversy had an influence on the company's decision to disband the group or not, but I can't help but think that if they had done really well on Queendom, they could have continued to promote. I'm so sorry, Lovelyz. You'll be missed. Oh, my loves. Last week, I've got into one of their worst controversies yet when two of their members, Wonyoung and Leeso, performed IU's Strawberry Moon at MBC. This was another instance of lip syncing in K pop with a key difference. During the performance, Wonyoung and Leeso remained sad throughout, which pointed to the fact that this was supposed to be a performance emphasizing the vocal ability of IVE. It also removed the justification of lip syncing due to hard choreography. And if that wasn't enough, the members remained very expressionless from beginning to end. And by expressionless, I don't mean they didn't smile or make any expressions at all. I mean the expressions they made did not reflect the effort made when singing a challenging song, especially during Strawberry Moon's difficult high note. This is what IU looks when she sings that song. This made it extremely obvious that the performance was not live. This angered K-Nets and international fans alike in a "you can think we're that stupid, right?" kind of way, and subsequently led to a lot of hate comments. I have never been recognized for having particularly strong vocals, but this performance really pushed people to openly call them talentless and only caring about beauty. The controversy is still ongoing, so there is no way to know how this will play out for them, or if it will affect their status as fourth generation leaders. We'll just have to wait and see. The reason I made this video is because I had a lot of feelings about this issue. As someone who wanted to be a singer growing up and even participated in competitions and won a couple awards as a teen, I'm heartbroken every time I really want to hear a K-pop song I love sung live, and then it isn't. I'm intrigued by which idols have the best vocal stability, range, and other qualities. K-pop feels less exciting with most groups playing it so safe and using pre-recorded vocals. I totally understand the need for lip syncing on some occasions, but it still saddens me that vocals have taken a backseat at their own party. If you feel the same way, you might want to support groups who frequently sing live to let companies know it's in their best interest to let their idols do it as well. The harassment have made some stands very defensive when it comes to criticism, since it has often just been disguised as hate. However, I think it's not unreasonable to expect certain skills from professional artists who signed up for this job and who deserve proper training and proper chances to showcase their abilities. And if you're harassing people online, you're an asshole, there's no excuse. There are definitely groups who showcase fantastic live performances, but they seem to be fewer by the day. This definitely isn't a simple issue, as it stems from a complex mix of variables and strategic financial decisions. We can't solve the vocal crisis in a video, but I hope I was able to shine some light onto a couple of the factors that motivate the use of lip syncing and the consequences it can have for idols and fans alike. You don't have to care about live vocals. You really don't. But the current situation with excessive lip syncing in K-pop is indicative of a wider issue. It's worth thinking about how the K-pop market is so interested in selling idols as products that singing, which is what they sign up to do, is being disregarded this way. Companies aren't secretly conspiring, They're just doing what looks like the best business decision. And as long as lip syncing is the most profitable choice, they will keep choosing it. I've gotten so many things out of my chest, dear God. Thank you so much for listening, and feel free to leave your opinion in the comments or possibly suggest topics for my next video. I hope this was fun to watch and maybe even gave you some things to think about. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
I'm fearless.